Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. In today's video, we're gonna be localizing our chat application so that it can support multiple languages. We're gonna be using the Flutter Localization from Flutter SDK. So we're gonna be following the instructions from this official documentation. So without further ado, let's dive right in. So before we install any package, let's define first the languages that we're gonna be supporting. So inside this features directory, let's create a language directory. So we're gonna be defining the languages inside an enum. Also, let's define the properties down here. This needs to be const like this. I don't know if this is correct. I am just translating it. Alright, these flags here are just an emoji. I just copied it from this website. Here you can see all the flag emojis here, and you can just simply copy any flag that you're interested in. Alright, so let's create the provider for this. Let's give it a default of English. Okay, so right over here, let's create a pop-up menu button for our language settings, so that once we tap on it, it will show the list of languages where we can choose from. Okay, so let's add the pop-up menu button inside these actions of our app bar. But let's define the widget inside this language directory. Let's give this a type of language. So what we're doing here is we're looping for the values of the language, and for each value, we return pop-up menu item and a row as a child, and inside this row, we get a child of the language flag and the language name. And here on the onSelected callback, we are updating the language provider, passing the selected value as its state. Alright, so let's now go ahead and use this. Alright, we now have the pop-up menu button in place. So let's now test this out. Oh no, why it's not working? What? Why is this? Oh, there, I forgot to pass the value here. Okay, let's try it one more time. Alright. Alright, it's now updating as expected. Okay, so since it's now working, let's now start the integration of the Flutter Localization package. Okay, it says here that we need to create a project, but since we already have a project, let's go ahead and continue with the installation. Take note that when you're installing the package, you need to choose the Flutter Localizations with S, because this is the official package. Alright, so let's import this, and then let's copy this. And since we're supporting 4 languages, let's add 2 more local class here. Alright, so it says here that we need to install the intl package. Alright, and then let's add this inside our pacific.yaml file. Alright, and then here, and then here, it says here that we need to create an l10n.yaml file inside the root directory of our project, and then add this code. So let's go ahead and do that. And then let's copy this as instructed. Okay. Okay, next up. It says here that we need to create this app underscore en.arb file inside this l10n and inside this lib directory. So let's go ahead and create the l10n directory first. Since we are supporting 4 languages, we're gonna create a 4 files here. You can name these files whatever you want as long as it ends with an underscore, the language code, and the .arb extension. So inside these files is where we need to define all the strings that we want to localize. So, so we need to define it as a key value pair or a JSON type. And all the keys should be the same for each files, and the values should be the translations for each languages. So let's localize this one, and all of the labels of this bottom navigation bar. So, okay. Okay, after defining all the translations, let's now restart our app. Okay. So after restarting, inside these Dart tools, this Flutter gen was auto-generated. And this contains the classes for each of the language that we are supporting. And inside of each class, all the getters of the translations are already defined. We also have this app localizations.dart, and this is now the main class of our localization. And inside this class, we can see that the list of localizations delegates are all defined here. And also the list of supported locals. So let's go ahead to our My App class and reference to these definitions to eliminate redundancy. Okay, we need to import it. Alright, so we're now ready to go. And here, it says here that this is how we'll reference the localized strings. So let's go ahead and implement it. Since we know that the settings is not null, we can safely use this assertion operator here. Alright. Alright, we are now referencing to the localized strings from the app localizations class. But how can we link this pop-up menu button to our app localization class? Because as you can see, if we change the language, it is not changing the text here. So how can we do that? So what we need to do is to go to our material app widget. And inside this build widget, we need to watch the selected language. And down here, we need to tap on the local attribute. Assign a local class and pass the code of the selected language. Alright, let's now test this. Okay. There you go. It's now updating as expected. Alright, so since it's working correctly, let's go ahead and continue exploring some more features. So here, it says here that we can also localize a string with a parameter. And the way to do that, we can define the string as usual and then wrap the parameter inside a bracket like this. So let's go ahead and test this. Let's test it here. Alright, let's define it like this. Take note that you shouldn't be adding a comma here in the last part of your key value pair because it will throw an error. So let's remove this and restart. Alright. Alright. Perfect. It's perfectly done. However, there is still another problem. Because when we try to restart our app, the language reverts back to the default language. So what we need to do is to persist the selected language in the local storage. So we'll be using shared preference here. Alright, to save time, I already created this language repository class. And I also have already installed the shared preferences. And inside this class, we define this language code K as a static const. And we define this setLanguage method and this getLanguage method. So here in this setLanguage method, we are fetching the shared preferences using this syntax because I wrap the shared preferences inside a future provider. After that, we call this setString, passing the language code K as the key and the language code as the value. And then we update this language provider, passing the selected language. And here in the getLanguage, we once again fetch the shared preference. And then we are fetching the code using this getString method, passing the language code key, and saving the result to a variable. And here, we are looping the values of the language. And for each value, we check if the value code is equal to this fetch code. And if so, we return the value. If this doesn't return a value, we return the English as a default. Alright, and then lastly, we define the provider of this language repository class. Okay, so let's move on to the main.dart. Here in the main function, we converted this to a future void, and then we define a provider container here. And using this container, we tap on the language repository class and call this getLanguage method. And then we assign the value to a variable. After that, we override the language provider using this override with method and assign this fetch language as a value. Alright, so inside the language pop-up menu, here on the unselected callback, we tap on this language repository provider and call this setLanguage method, passing the selected value coming from here. Alright, that's it. Let's test it. Let's change this with Tagalog. Alright, let's try to restart. Okay, as you can see, it's still Tagalog. Let's change it to Hindi, then restart. Okay. Alright, it's being persisted correctly. Okay, so that's it, guys. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, share, and subscribe. Thank you.